So welcome for the Bhagavad Gita evening in the Bhakti Centar in Zagreb. I'm very honored to be here as a guest speaker for my dear God brother Sundarananda Prabhu, and my name is Purushottama Krishna Das, also known as Patrick, and a few other names, different cultures, but Patrick, I was told, means messenger in Sanskrit, so I'm trying to present this message here as I learned it from my teacher and my teachers and all the teachers before who passed it on to us, so that we can learn about this without too much speculation, and who realize it themselves and who pass it on, that we can practice it and also realize it. So I will try the best I can to speak from my own realizations, and this is it's considered to be the quintessence of the Bhagavad Gita, this verse, 1866, very famous. It's like this: Sarvadhaman parijatya mamikam shanam raja hamtram sarva pabibhyo mokshashyami masucha. And it goes like this: abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge, processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Super Soul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 8th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one might think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need to strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the societal order, but if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances, Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reaction. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision. Some of them are attracted by the super soul future, etc. But one who is attracted to the personal future of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most fundamental part of knowledge. And this is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics and devotees are all called transcendentalists, but one who is pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, masuchaha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can achieve up and give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender unto Krishna. But such worry is useless. So, it summarizes a lot of the teachings, and this is not meant to say that your beautiful narrations of the complexities of the Gita are useless. Of course, just forget about all that, just surrender. That's not the case, of course. And you always have to remember when Sri Krishna is talking to Arjuna, he always knows what's going on inside of him. So if you communicate with God, he always knows what's in your mind, in your heart, all the time. So despite all the teachings, Krishna senses that Arjuna is still a little bit hesitant, besides all the teachings. And he's a friend of Krishna, he's in front of him. And it's the middle of the battlefield. And we have to remember what kind of existential crisis the moment is. Sometimes in life we may be out there and we will have our own Arjuna moment, I call it. Where we're like, okay, now I have to apply what I learned. And even Master Yoda, he's saying to Luke Skywalker like that in Star Wars, like, now you apply what you have learned, right? And this moment comes again and again. If we're somewhere in life, we will have our Arjuna moment, our Arjuna moment. And then we will face fear, actually. We will face it. It will be there. It might be fear of death, fear of betrayal, fear of disease in this corona pastimes happening, fear of atomic bombs. Now people are afraid again of atomic war maybe, of not having enough food on the table soon, or being freezing in the winter because of the gas prices. So it's always an atmosphere of fear. And sooner or later it will catch us as well. And it's a decision. Are we deciding to be afraid? Or are we trusting God, actually, who is in control? Because the demons, they are only puppets of nature. They're not sovereign entities. They don't have free will, actually. They are like the dogs barking around. So the dogs, of course, it's a soul entrapped in a body, and they act in a certain way. Like the people who are like covered by this type of illusion, they just act like puppets also. Like the little puppies on the street. Or this little dog, this is my border, don't go here, bark, 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 bark back, fight, fight, fight. This is just a dog fight, So sometimes people give too much power to those people who are actually in the matrix. They're bound by illusion. They're not sovereign agents. So whatever their plans are, this is still part of Krishna's plan. So whatever fear-mongers are out there, they give too much credit to the plans of the ant-like people on earth who make their little plans, right, to conquer the world in whatever way. This is an old story repeating itself again and again and again. And then we have like Krishna laughing, smiling, meanwhile cooking up something, because he has a plan actually. And the beauty is we have always a choice. Are we going for things of this material world, or are we choosing God's side in these moments especially? And this is the time now again, we're living in such times. The end of times, they call it, apocalyptic, right? This is what we're living in. This is happening. And then it comes down to that. Do not fear, because he knows in the ultimate core of our resistance to surrender to God is we are afraid. We're not trusting enough. We have some back door open all the time, right? There's something we're kind of like holding back because we cannot really surrender. Like, hands up, I go out of my trenches, I leave my weapons, I go and surrender. Are we surrendering to the enemy? No, we don't. When there was in the German army in the Second World War, there was one group of people who never surrendered, ever. And these were the SS forces. These were the elite knighthood of the Nazi empire, so to speak. They were diehard, committed. They would never surrender, because they knew if they would surrender, they would be killed immediately, because they did a lot of atrocities. They were very gruesome warriors, and they were so committed, they fought till the end, So they rather would die than surrender, because they would anyway die when they surrender. But are we surrendering to Krishna, to God, who is our well-wisher, and have to be afraid to take away our weapons? This is my insurance company, this and that. I have everything organized, right? And society is everything organized. And we can't just give up, right? We're just attached and holding firm to this pillar. And some sage said, oh, king, look here, you just have to let go and go. And it's so easy to surrender. We just have to let go, right? And all these processes Krishna is explaining is helping us to gain faith, actually. If we have an experience of Brahman, and we see the light, so to speak, we see the unity, we see the connection, that means, oh yeah, we're all connected, it's all one, it's beautiful. I feel love in my heart for everyone, It's a beautiful realization. It creates faith and trust, right? If we're realizing Paramatma more and more, he's in the heart, he's responding to my prayer. He's everywhere, he's talking to me through 1,000 mouths, right? He's in every body. We can experience him everywhere. Even in that song in the radio, right? Or anything like that. So, and then one can realize him, okay. But then ultimately, all these forms culminate in this beautiful vision that Prabhupada is alluding to here. The most beautiful form, the all attractive Krishna. And to know about Krishna, his future, because when Arjuna was knowing more about God, not as a friend, but as God the Almighty, Lord of Lords, creator and destroyer of everything, he got frightened also. Because if it's if you know the power of God, you get frightened, because he's so powerful, right? But then he was okay, now you saw what you wanted to see. It was his desire, actually. So when we pray in a certain way, then Krishna will show himself in a certain way. And for some who don't believe in him, he will show himself as death. That's the ultimate revelation. Oh, I'm still alive, Strange, my body's dead, but I'm still here somehow, right? And then it's oh, what's happening now? Do I have karma, sinful reaction, hell, depending which culture you grew up in? This can be very devastating, because if you grew up in a Christian tradition, there's only one life, you have one shot. If you screwed up, you go to eternal hell, basically speaking, right? It's but fortunately, God is all merciful and gives us a chance unlimitedly. But then we are in this unlimitedly, unfortunately, right? But this one moment only is required, the sincere moment, which it says if we have the sincere moment, because Krishna made it very easy for us, actually. All these things sometimes, it's oh, it's so complex, all this meditation, all this chanting, all these complex rituals, so sophisticated, the Vedic cultures. You can go for 80 years studying Vedic rituals and you still have to scratch the surface of it. It's so beautiful, actually, because it helps us through culture to generate a culture, a good background to cultivate our spiritual knowledge and devotion, our love, right? It's a garden of love we're learning to cultivate. The Vrajvasis, the ancient village people where Krishna lived, they say this whole universe is a school of love. Well, we say also prison and this and that. But it's a school of love, actually, And God made it easy for us. So sometimes he's smiling yeah, I know all these things, all varieties of religion I explained to you. It's complicated, right? He was because we have a lot of time to go through all these verses with commentary and your commentary and churning it together. But he had only one shot. He had to learn it, listen to it whole, and then make a decision. Now you make the decision. Are you going to surrender now? Are you going to fight? Are you still hesitant? And if you've ever been in a fight, there cannot be any hesitation. One has to be determined, and really be determined. If you're doubtful, doing your thing half-heartedly, we cannot go anywhere, really. So he had to be really, really committed. And still that doubt is there. So he's don't worry, all these complexities. There's a quintessence here. You don't have to be worried that you kill all these people or your relatives and so on, because they're already dead by my own arrangement. Because I'm in control here. You can be an instrument, right? So again and again, he's ensuring him, Don't worry about these things. You're going to do the right thing if you just follow, right? If you just do what you meant to do, your soul purpose, right? Your dharma, your essence, your essential beings, you're always with me. Now let's do our service together. You know, it's for all of us like that. We don't always have to be the leader of an army and being in a devastating battle, but in some way or the other, all of us have a destiny. All of us have a higher calling, and to be that actually is Krishna is asking us. And that's why sometimes we come into circumstances that can be devastating outsidely, and people are like, wow, how can this be possible? And we are in our own movie, so to speak, and we're getting asked then, are you just going to surrender now? Are you going through that gate? Or are you turning away and finding security somewhere else? Are you hiding? Are we hiding, going away, right? And it requires a lot of courage. And once the great emperor of the universe, who has conquered all directions, you know, he asked his son that question: where do you get your courage and your strength to resist me while I've conquered everyone? But you little son here, you're resisting me. You're not afraid of me. Where you get your power from? And he told him, from the same power, from the same source where you get your power from. And then he freaked out, so to speak, and he wanted to kill his own son. And then God came to save him. And it's a very famous story. And then this son was enthroned as the king of the universe for some time. And so this is really the quintessence. And I think it's important for us to sometimes look into our own hearts and look, where are we afraid of? Because we're all afraid of something, you know. And whatever it may be, you have a whole spectrum of choices, you know. And then people actually subconsciously make a decision based on their fear. And then they're gonna act upon that. Like if you're now very afraid, you're gonna be very, very hungry and cold in the war, right? Then you're gonna move to the countryside now and build your stack of wood, grow your food. But now it's too late actually, right? It's already October soon. And you wanna grow your food now, right? So it's not easy, But if you think about that Krishna is also our provider, maintainer, so in that sense, nobody has to be afraid. If we are afraid, it's always a choice to give our power away to those who seek to control us, those who try to imitate God, because God is the controller, and there are always people who challenge that and say, no, we are in control, we are in charge here, we are the elite, we take care of everything, we take the monopoly on food, water, energy, medicine, housing, you are our slaves, you know? God doesn't have any slaves. God has only friends, family, relatives, you know. But the imitation gods, they have slaves, and they are slaves themselves, either to their slave master. There's always a hierarchy of slaves, you know. No matter how high you're up in this world, you'll have another master in front of you. And even if you're so-called the master of the universe, like this one person, he was slave to his own mind. He wasn't self-controlled. He was slave to his own senses, to his own ego and ambitions. So he was also not free. You know, even the greatest master of the universe back then, he wasn't free also. But he had also submasters and so on, and they were fearing him, right? So there's always another master, like there's always a bigger fish to eat another fish. This is the same here, and now the great sage Narada Muni is saying, in this world, one living being is food for the other. And if we're staying in that struggle, then that's a choice. We're staying in that struggle, and we're trying to be on top of things. So we're trying to join a regime, collaborate, get a good position, right? This is a choice that will come maybe this lifetime for us. It was a choice for people when the Nazis conquered Europe, and they were everywhere. Local people joined the Nazis to get a nice position in the government, you know? And they had their nice steaks and wines and beers, and they were getting fat bellies while other people were starving, right? That was their choice. They were also afraid, but they made the choice to collaborate, you know? So we can always collaborate with the agents of those forces that try to govern us, Or we can collaborate and join the forces that try to liberate, right? You join the resistance, so to speak. And the true resistance is to resist the warmongers, fearmongers, and not necessarily by entering their own game. Because this Kurukshetra war, that was Krishna's game. He assembled the parties. That was all his thing. So in some way, there's a polarization in some way, right? You have the good forces, the forces of evil, but it wasn't even good and evil, because at that time, there were good people on both sides. They were like Bhishma, one of the great teachers of the universe. He one of the great authorities, grandfather Bhishma. He was the patriarch of the planet, basically speaking, loved by all people. And he was on the other side. And Arjuna had a big problem fighting because he knew the greatest warrior, he was on that side, and the other greatest warrior was Bhishma. And there was nobody, one of them had to die because they were determining factors. Because these were like the great warriors. And if the greatest warrior of the army falls, the entire army falls. Back then was like that. You don't have this kind of industrial warfare. It was still back then like real warriors having a real fight. And when one fall, the whole army would collapse essentially. Because they would build the entire strategy around these great warriors who hold the field, so to speak. So nowadays, it's hard to say East-West conflict, communists, capitalists. They're good and bad people on both sides. So we can't really make that easy distinction. Iron Curtain, this and that. They're good and evil people on both sides. So is this really the front line? Or is the front line somewhere else? Where is the front line really? That's really a question, or something to investigate. And where's the front line in our own lives? Because yes, we have the bigger picture of the planet, the prophecies, and God's plan and the prophets, and we have also our own life, which fits into the bigger picture, but also it's our own universe, so to speak. And we are in the center. We are in the pole position. We are like the hero of our own journey, or the heroine of our own journey. It's our own hero's journey. Like there's this famous book called The Hero's Journey of Christopher Campbell, a very beautiful book where he studied the different mythologies and legends of the world. And there's always this kind of dynamic of a hero's journey where we get challenged, get out of our comfort zone, meet different helpers and teachers, and we have some kind of like demons or end bosses to fight, and this type of dynamics. And then at some point, if this hero survives, he returns home and benefits his people. There are different dynamics like that. It's very crudely summarized now, but in a way we all have that in our own lives. And if we reflect sometimes in our lives, we can see these moments like, oh, here I had my moment, my Arjuna moment. Was I choosing fear, or was I surrendering? Was I trusting God's plan? Was I trusting myself even? Because it's one thing to trust in God, but how can we trust God if we cannot even trust ourselves? Or let's say like we lost our trust in humanity. We have to restore the trust even in humanity again, before people can trust God again even. Right? It's a whole restoration process going on. And people lost faith in humanity, totally. People lost faith in human beings. People lost faith in the other spouse, right? That, oh, I always got cheated. I don't believe in marriage anymore. I got always cheated in business. Business is just for bad people. I leave that thing. And Arjuna is kind of like, I don't want all these things. I want to leave. I want to go into the forest and retire. I just want to meditate in peace. Leave the world on its own. I have nothing to gain here, right? And Krishna like, no. It's not the point here, what you have to gain. I have a plan here. You can take part of it. And that's your perfection. Not that you're hiding somewhere, right? And all of us can hide in our own ways, Again, we not necessarily have to be on the front line of a huge epic battle. Each of us is in our own epic battle, because once Srila Prabhupada said like, its entire mission would be fulfilled if only one single soul will get liberated and goes back to Krishna. So even for one soul, he would leave his safe place in Vrindavan Dham, where Krishna resided, in his beautiful temple. Most of the sadhus and holy people who go to Vrindavan, they don't want to leave Vrindavan anymore. It's so nice there. You can just be naturally Krishna conscious. You don't have to struggle, you know. It's beautiful. Of course, maybe materially speaking, okay. But in the heart, everything is fine there. Normally, people who go there, they don't go out anymore. They don't. But he went like all the way with the ship, risked all the things, even like, oh, maybe they told him like, they don't have no vegetables in the West. They only eat meat, you know. And I'm like, okay, no problem, you know. I can eat potatoes also, whatever, right? Because he knew potatoes came from the West, you know. It was a thing. Tomatoes and potatoes came from South America, no, or North America. Squash and so. They knew a little bit that they had some vegetables over there. But Indians, sometimes they're in their own world, you know. They don't understand so much the outside world. The traditional sages never left India, actually. The real sages would never leave India. It's a no-go zone, you know. Only the cheaters would leave to find some cheap followers and money and fame and so on. The real people would have not left. Like you will find in the elders from the ancient indigenous tribes, they don't leave their village. They survived all these onslaughts of Kali Yuga, of this dark age. They don't leave their village. If you want to meet them, you have to go all the way to the Amazon, you know, forests, go with a boat, days and days and weeks trekking, and then you maybe find still some sage like that, you know? And rarely they come out. So he went all the way out, not to be in his comfort zone, but to preach, and that was his battle, right? Because he stayed there, and then also like if you're in India, you grow up there, you never really see snow and cold, and all of a sudden it's snowing, and you have all these drunkards and drug addicts and all these things, and he had so many challenges to pass. Recently was the day of his travel to America, and we saw this movie where some of these things were like narrated. And again, of course, one can say, yeah, this is Prabhupada, you know, he's like this Acharya, he's this prophet, he's like the saint. Who are we, you know? Arjuna, like, yes, you know, he's from the Vedic culture 5,000 years ago, you know. But it says here, regarding sinful reactions, in some way, every material reaction is sinful, because the root of sin means separation. So we are separated from God. So our entire existence here, in some way or another, is like a symptom that we are away from our home, right? So it's like, but all these reactions, all the nonsense, life after life after life in this lifetime, this is not an obstacle. Not an obstacle at all. This is what it clearly says here. Simply by the process of surrendering to Krishna, one is automatically freed. And we had this conversation yesterday about knowledge and devotion leading to liberation, and how on the platform of liberation, one can actually really freely be oneself. Kind of a bit obvious, like you feel like into chains and bound by ropes. We can't really act freely, you know? We can't do the exercises and so on, right? You're like, I can't move. But like the Gordian knot, you know, nobody could actually unrelease that Gordian knot. And it said, whoever will come to unleash that knot, this famous knot, nobody could manage. And then Alexander the Great came and took a sword and just cut it to pieces. And he released it, right? So we have the sword of knowledge. That's what Krishna also says. We have the sword of knowledge. So we need knowledge. It's essential. That's why we need every single verse here, every single verse of the Bhagavatam, even though the quintessence is right here. Don't be afraid. Just surrender. I protect you from everything. All the nonsense. Like people go to therapy to heal this wound, that trauma. I do past life things. You can go to so many past lives. Every life I've encountered in past life regressions is dramatic, actually. Every single life is dramatic. There's no life which is like easygoing. Doesn't exist. It's simply not there. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of lives, people, all times and ages, other planets. Every single one is full of struggle. It doesn't matter if you're all the way in the heavens, in hell, or here, which time, even the glorious Vedic times, 5,000 years ago and plus, always a struggle in a way. But that's not the point. And like Srila Prabhupada said, like, an easygoing life and Krishna consciousness doesn't go well together, because the real war is to overcome the obstacles that we can become a free spirit, that we can see God and then become free again. That's the true war here. Not that these people want to conquer these people, or they want to conquer us, they want to conquer our mind, they want to control our mind with this and that, chemtrails and all the things, you know. So much to be afraid of, actually, right? But in essence, there's nothing to be afraid of, because God is in charge, and if we allow Him to take care of our lives and take care, like to entrust our lives into His care, to say more precisely, to entrust Him that you are in charge. Anyway, if I accept it or not, it's anyway like that. But now it's like, are we volunteering, or are we getting forced and dragged life after life to accept that fact? And just to really do this honest self-examination, like where I have resistances, where are my doubts there? You know, because we all have doubts sometimes. It's natural. It's a sign of intelligence to have doubts. That's why people who are intelligent, they're doubting current trends in society. They're doubting that they have our best interest in mind. When I was a child and I could read finally, again, gotta learn everything again and again, right? Even how to properly poo, right? It's like, but anyway, so you're reading, and I could see like the yogurt, I still remember, I was reading the yogurt, the ingredients, and I saw all these strange words, which is not just yogurt and strawberry, but all these other things, a huge list of stuff. And I was like, these are chemicals and so on. And I was like, my mother like, can't we buy things without all these things? And she was like, yeah, it's a little expensive. We can't just buy all the things from the Reform House. We call it back then. There were not so many like supermarkets yet with ecological friendly things, or bio, biological bio, organic, right? Organic, yeah. Normal food actually, without all the nonsense on top of it, And if you're in the US and you want to buy like a normal cheese, which is actually just cheese, you pay $10-15 for it. And otherwise you get like the normal price, so to speak, for us here, and you have all the nonsense in there. There's hardly any cheese in there actually, And so yes, there's a lot of reason to be doubtful to what's presented to us. But if we're reading these scriptures, that's why in the beginning I was saying this has been passed on to us through our teachers who we trust. And in the beginning, when I was reading these lines, I was very much like aware that things are off in the world, and I had zero trust. I made a total tabula rasa of all the things I've learned, except maybe for the teachings of Jesus. I had trust in Him somehow. I knew He knew something, and He's like leading us to the throne where God sits surrounded by His people who sing His praise, and their eternal homes prepared for us. So yeah, I kind of like, okay, and I trusted Him because of His persona, because He was full of love, and you could feel in his teachings, in His life, that this was a person who loved the people. And someone like this we can trust. And Prabhupada was like that. They didn't know anything about Krishna, but they could feel, hey, there's someone here who cares for us. They were lingering on the streets, so He gave them a home. That's why the ashrams came about. He didn't really plan a big organization. It was more of a necessity, really, because people were homeless. And He was like, gave them shelter and food and some clean clothes, and so on. And gave them knowledge. And also the process, how to follow it. And that liberated thousands of His people. All of them always stayed in the institution, but they got liberated, essentially. And of course, then it takes time to integrate things, right? It's not that we have knowledge and surrender and all of a sudden it still plays out over lifetimes. I had in some past life regressions, I met disciples of Srila Prabhupada who died and came back for different reasons. There were some resistances, It can happen like that. But still, they're never forgotten. Never by Prabhupada, never by our parampara. Jesus, and so many people who were like surrendered to Jesus to the core, and they became Vaishnavas. They found, because they also had this question, praise His holy name. Which holy names? Can you be more precise, Jesus? No, I will come back later. You can't take it yet, so I'll come back later. But He's coming back through also other people, like Prabhupada. Who is sitting on the throne? How does He look like, right? These are questions I think many of us sometimes have, right? And that's why it's beautiful that someday, by Krishna's mercy, there will be a great reconciliation between all varieties of religion. The Muslim brothers and sisters, the Christian brothers and sisters, all the people. So many indigenous peoples who learned about Jesus And they're like, oh, you can't go to your ancestors, you can't go to the higher worlds without surrendering to Jesus, right? And they're like got afraid like that. And they abandoned their old ways, right? And many of us abandoned many ways, and they just wanted to conquer through fear. And but in many ways, like all these writers of religion are also there to teach us so many things. And if you go to the essences, it always comes down to that love, actually, right? That we're loving each other, that we're learning again to restore faith in humanity, in us, that we collaborate somehow, that we're all like relatives, and that we can all learn from each other. And when Srila Prabhupada went to South America, he had some meeting with these elders somewhere, and it was so exclusive that he was alone going there. Nobody came with him. Now he had his whole people with him, but he went alone. And sometimes when he met people of other religions, he was arguing with them. You shall not kill. Why you eat animals? And then they had a whole argument, and the devotees were cheering him up. Yeah, smash them with our philosophy. Yeah, we're the best, you know. But that wasn't the point. The point was to make a point, not to be on a personal level thinking we're superior to this cardinal who later on, a few weeks later, died in a heart attack in a bordel, right? He was a celibate monk in the Christian church, but he wasn't following the teachings. And that was his point. Like, why are you not following the teachings of Buddha? He was totally into vegetarianism. Why are you eating meat? No, he was always like, follow your teachers. You don't have to convert to Hinduism. Follow your teachings, because all the rights of religion come from Krishna and his prophets, and they lead us to the throne of God at some point. And when we come into that throne, we shall not be afraid that, oh, I did so many bad things. Please, you know, I'm so ashamed. And then we turn our face again from God, you know, because we're so ashamed. If we're really sitting with, that's why they're saying in our tradition, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, that we can't just look straight into the face of God. If we meet God, you will not be able to look into his face straight away. You may be at some point able to look at the feet, yeah, and then slowly working up, but even that is difficult. So then we look maybe at the feet of Radharani, Srimati Radhika, of his consort, because she's the mother. So you're a naughty boy, you come home, you're afraid to face your father, right? So you look first at the mother, and you go to the feet, and then the mother will pick you, come on, don't worry, your father loves you. And then she will turn you towards Krishna, like that, you know? Because there are all these resistances on every level, somehow or another. There's always something coming up. And it's worth it to really have an honest inventory about it, and to always remember that God loves us, no matter what we do. And there's so many analogies Jesus also was talking about, like when the lost son comes back home, the father will be so happy because he knew that everybody was afraid. Because, oh, we knew we did something bad. None of us is without sin. None of us. So we can't be pure and wait until we're pure till we go to God, because this will never happen. You know, of course we can get purified through all these processes Krishna is teaching us, all the varieties of religion at all times and ages across the universe, and especially on earth, you know, through the prophets, through the elders. But ultimately, even this cannot save us from our own fears, apparently. Right? This can bring us to a certain point, but then it comes really like the moment comes like, how am I trusting you, God? I trust Krishna. And then we have to make that step. And of course, we may have tests in lives until we die. And each time we may go a little further, a little different. Like Arjuna, before this moment, he was prepared. He was trained. He was prepared on a mental level, on a physical level, and on a spiritual level. He had a lot of association with Sri Krishna. They were joking with each other. He had 100% trust in Krishna. Yeah. But still, even though he knew him so well, and there were so many, before this moment, there were so many moments for them to be afraid. So many moments, actually. They had so many assassination attempts on their lives. So many of them. They were in exile, they were in some house that was supposed to get burned. And Krishna always helped. And all these incidences were helping, actually, to create trust in Krishna also. Or it was not even a question, you know. But still, there was some... Why is Krishna saying, don't worry, surrender to me, you don't have to be afraid. despite all of that, right? Despite all the knowledge, but there's still hesitation sometimes, right? There's still hesitation sometimes. And if you just think also Srila Prabhupada, he was like saying this, it's like a lifetime of preparation to come to this moment when he had his real Arjuna moment. And that wasn't when he was still eating his prasadam, when the bombs were falling from the Japanese or so on where he was living, you know. He was still eating his prasad, he wasn't afraid. But his Arjuna moment came. He had many Arjuna moments, I'm sure. But he felt also he was prepared for this his whole lifetime, to fulfill the order of a spiritual master, to bring this knowledge to the Western world in a way that is not twisted and changed to make a career, get big money or something like that. You know? And all of us, we have moments and moments. And it's also good to know when we were victorious and when we were not. And we can see that when we're honest with ourselves. Here I was victorious, here I was not. And still it's ongoing, right? It's ongoing. And big and small battles for us is always the battle we are in now or soon will be in, the most important. And then we move on forward. And if you struggle and fall, we stand up again and continue, right? This is critical. Otherwise, I'm so sinful, I'm so fallen, I can't do anything. This is not what Krishna is encouraging at all. He's always encouraging us. And Srila Prabhupada, he was sometimes saying like, I always try to encourage you, and you always try to discourage. Some of his leaders, they were discouraging the members. And he was like, why are you discouraging them? I always try to encourage, and you discourage. Why is that? You know? Because we're passing sometimes our issues onto others also. You know, it's like parents, they maybe had a bad childhood, and then they pass it on to their children, and they pass it on to their children. And it's a society of cheaters and cheated, ongoing, consciously or subconsciously, it's happening all the time. And that's why the most important question in this time, and at all times, but this time now is a bit like, again, like a little more, the heat is on, you know? Hopefully in the winter too, but the heat is increasing. The crisis is increasing. The comfort zone is falling apart. Many people have died. Many people have lost their livelihoods over the last 2-3 years, you know, and the crisis is intensifying. So on the material platform, there's a lot of things to worry, but on the spiritual platform, there's a lot of reason to rejoice, because this is a time where we can actually attain the highest victory in life, and that is to see the hand of God, to see the hand of God in our lives. And it's not so much, you know, we're all gonna die. Bad news, a virus. Here in Zagreb, people drive crazily, you know. I had to be afraid driving with you on the motorbike because he's cutting all the lines, you know. He's like, you know, the motorbike people, like, you know. But it's like, no, we're alright. It's all gonna be okay, you know. And you can be afraid to catch a virus and die. Yeah, you know, this great Swami, one of the master disciples of Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Swami, when the whole Corona show started, he left Mayapur. We had this ISKCON leadership sangha there, all the leaders coming. He left and just went and continued doing his service, you know. And then he died. Actually, he kind of like catched a disease or whatever, and he died. But he actually chose Krishna and not fear. So if a Vaishnava like him dies, it's actually glorious, because why did Krishna not protect him? He died also from Corona. We all have to be afraid of Corona. No, what he was showing us, you keep on going, and you can die anytime, but he chose Guru and Krishna, and not to be afraid and hide himself in Mayapur in some kind of locked door and chant his rounds, just meditate, get his prasad, be isolated, and hope to kind of survive this crisis of virus that could be deadly for everyone on the planet, right? No, he went to the front line, he went to the hospital, and he actually supplied with his disciples food, spiritualized food, offered food, sacred, sanctified food, which we call mercy, to the people who are also on the front lines. There was a battle there, no? They called them the frontline workers, the people who would take on the corona patient in, take care of them. Like if there's like a lepra or like the pest, you call it the pest also? People had to take care of the pest people also, and they were serving in hospital, and some of them never died. They never got it, you know? They were protected somehow or another. So why he wasn't protected? We won't say like this, no? But that wasn't the point, because whoever is embodied is meant to die at some point. So he was protected from fear. He was showing by his example, we choose Krishna and not fear. That was his teaching. In the very beginning of the crisis, he showed the whole world, don't be afraid. Yeah, you can die, but die in a glorious way. Die in a way that you're not defeated by the demons, defeated by the system, defeated by the mind, you know, defeated by your senses. So it's not about not dying. And like the samurai, they also have this philosophy, like, they kind of like know that the way you die is more important than yet you're gonna die. Like if you're like in war, for example, and you're like a warrior, and you believe in past life, you know, when you're brave in battle, and you do your duty well, then you're gonna go on a higher destination. So that was, you know, not just a psychophysical, like a manipulation of the mind, you know. They knew this reality very well. And in the same way, like his death was glorious because he died in the service of Guru and Krishna, and not, he could have died also on Corona. Many people got the coronavirus in sacred places also where they were hiding, and they died there also. But again, the point again and again comes like fear of Krishna. Vaikuntha, we call it, no? The Vaikuntha atmosphere, Prabhupada used to say, that when we gather like this, you know, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and everyone, Nishimadev on the wall, and we have beautiful deities here, then this is the Vaikuntha atmosphere. This is the atmosphere where there's no fear, Vaikuntha. The only way to not be afraid is to be in the Vaikuntha atmosphere. And actually Vaikuntha, these are the planets in the spiritual world. Like this is what Jesus talked about, our eternal home. There you're not afraid because you cannot die, you know, you have only wonderful people around, everything is conscious and beautiful and full of love. You're not afraid there. But here it's a world of death. And in essence, the essence of our fear is our fear of death, of course. And to conquer that is the greatest victory. And he conquered that. So he's a hero. All glories to Bhakti Swami like that. And he's a hero. And so many were heroes. I know there are people, Food for Life. It's an NGO. They distribute food in crisis. And in Ukraine, there was a headquarters of Food for Life. It was hit by a bomb. People died in there, you know. But they're not fleeing to UK or to Switzerland. They were continuing their service. Why Krishna didn't protect those people? They were serving food to the hungry. They gave them the sanctified prasad. But actually, they died in that type of service. And that's how this is a mercy also, because they choose, again, Krishna, service, not to run away, you know, and be somewhere in a temple in Zurich now, chanting their rounds and being somewhere. Of course, people with family, I don't want to judge people who go away from any war territory. That's obviously not the case. But I just wanted to give this example that they were not afraid. They choose Guru and Krishna. They continued serving until the bomb hit the headquarters. Not even outside, you know. They were in their homes cooking for the people, and then the bomb hit, right? Collateral damage. There's always people dying in these kind of wars, which are such wonderful devotees even. Or many stories like that from Africa sometimes. Devotees were like getting too friendly with a certain government. And then, like it happens there, people conquered the capital. That means you rule the world, if you conquer the capital in Africa, then you're kind of the government. And outside is a different reality in Africa. But yeah, you are now capital, right? So you're the official new government. And then they went to the devotees. You were very close with this old government, yeah? We need to get rid of you. And they lined up all the men to kill them. And then one of the Prabhupada disciples, I think it was a Prabhupada disciple, maybe not, but she was a very loved woman. And she threw herself in front of them. Don't kill them, you know. And they also shot her, right? So she was not like, oh, they won't kill me, they'll just kill the man, you know. But she was again choosing her service, being protective, and she died in such a glorious way, right? More important than saving her life was for her to save the lives of these devotees. And these devotees were also like, of course, we don't want to summon like, oh, we're going to die all very soon, let's have a glorious death sort of thing. Because Krishna has a plan, and he's our well-wisher, and he wants this world to continue in a beautiful way. I'm very certain about that. And all of us, we have, some very interesting times ahead of us in many, many ways. But for each of our lives, we'll have these moments. And I really encourage myself, we're always preaching to ourselves also, right? Not even sharing from my heart, really. That in these times we're going into, that the more we're accepting our destiny, if we're accepting the plan of Krishna for us, then we'll be surprised. Because Krishna, he gives so much more than we would expect ever. When we give a little bit, he will shower us with so much more. And that's something to be excited about, It's not balanced, in other words. We will give him like a little flower, and he will arrange entire forest flower for us, sort of, It's really not in relation. It's not it's not balanced. Krishna is always overpowering. Like he's so generous like that. It's the most generous personality. So we can't lose anything, because sometimes we have this feeling, right? If I give up, like Prabhupada was writing here, this beautiful point. There's no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. So many of us, we don't have a lot of time for spiritual life, for service, for Krishna, because we're so busy keeping body and soul together. In some way or the other, have a rent to pay. We're so busy with that. But there are many examples of people who surrender fully and they're taken care of. And that fundamental fear of how I'm going to maintain myself and my family and all that, This is critical, of course. But Krishna will maintain us. It's not a myth. But are we trusting that statement of Prabhupada here? Krishna will see to that. And this came again so I'm just talking a little bit about Yeshua of Nazareth, Jesus Christ, but he was also addressing that point when his disciples was traveling around with him, and they're like, oh, we don't know, how are we going to eat actually? We have no shelter, and are we going to be starving? And they addressed this point. They had this doubt, and they had such a great master like Jesus. Or the Prabhupada disciples, sometimes they came with doubts to him, and he always encouraged them. Always encouraged. Whenever they came with doubts, they always encouraged. And all of us, we need this encouragement, because it's inevitable. And Prabhupada is living in sound, and in his words here, and Krishna is living in sound in his words here. And all of us together, we can manifest the spirit of Krishna in our words and deeds all together, as a Sangha, as a church, as a Ummah, as a community. That's where we become pure devotees, a collective pure devotee. Because all of us, we have our faults, this and that. But if we would, as a circle now here, share, then we are a collective pure devotee, so to speak. Alone we can chant the holy names, but we can't really hear, because we don't have so much the transcendental purified ears to hear the holy name properly. But if we're chanting all together the holy names, then actually we are the collective pure devotee. Now that's kind of like a bit how it can be like. That's why when Jesus said also, when two people come in my name together, I will be present, right? So when two starts already the Sangha, the circle starts with two holding hands like that, right? It doesn't need 1,000 people chanting. It doesn't need the whole world to chant the holy names. It just needs us sometimes coming together. Like on Saturday, we're going to chant here. And if we surrender somehow or another and leave our mind somehow, and we're not worrying about our next bill or our next exam or our next whatever it can be, wherever we're at, then we'll see miracles unfolding. Because ultimately our own strength will not save us. Not the world, not the water, not the children. There's this NGO called Save the Children. But from what are we saving the children? We should save them from ignorance, from manipulation, to think they can be happy if they buy these Nike shoes. If they're going to play this computer game, you find happiness, right? You may find some little, like in front of here is this computer game place, right? It's called something like Escape, so? There's something called Escape on it. Portal. You enter this portal and you can escape the nonsense out there. Just sort of like, but just in front of it is also an escape from here. and here, we cannot, escape ourselves, first of all. Maybe temporarily we can numb ourselves through drugs, parties, computer games, festivals, wearing whatever, But ultimately, Krishna is so merciful. He will wake up. He will personally take care that we wake up. And when we wake up, we shouldn't oh, why you woke me up? It was so comfortable sleeping. You were sleeping in your own vomit. Of course I woke you up. If you see a friend somewhere on the street, you go out here, you see a friend from school, he's laying somewhere in his own vomit, you will wake him up, And he will not oh, why you woke me up? Maybe it was even winter time, totally drunk, and you see this person will freeze to death. Of course, you wake him up, He'll be oh, don't leave me alone, I'm comfortable here. I already feel warm. I put my clothes, when people die, when they get cold, they feel a lot of heat, and they kind of start taking their clothes off. I feel so much heat, actually, I'm warm, I'm fine, No, you're just freezing to death right now. Come on, wake up. And then we have to kick them if they're not, But there can be more gentle signs, right? So, I know it sounded all very intense, but again, the emphasis was on the intensity maybe, but actually Krishna made it very easy for us, very easy. And to end with these words of Srila Prabhupada, he said, it's easy, it's simple for the simple and complicated for the complicated. So much complexity is there. It leads us to deeper knowledge that helps us to create more faith and determination. But ultimately, it's very simple because there's an essence there. Don't be afraid. Trust God. Love Him. Love everybody. Jesus was so good in giving essences. The Torah and all the teachings of the Kabbalah, there's an unlimited mysticism there. In the Vedic culture, there's an unlimited mysticism, unlimited rituals, so much sophistication, in which direction to sleep, build your house. It's all helpful and wonderful. But we can lose sight of the real goal sometimes like that also. And that's why Krishna is so kind to tell us, in all of this, don't be afraid. I'm here for you. I have a plan. And simply surrender to Krishna. That's what it says. So thank you for listening, and thank you for listening in the wider internet world. Hope it was inspiring. I could share something coming from my heart, because this verse is very famous, and I really felt like somehow I'm trying to be an essence seeker myself, and I'm hoping and praying that me going deeper, sharing my heart on this verse will also help me to surrender fully and completely, and to overcome the fears, which are also on my way, which has been on my way and will be on my way. But whenever these moments come, I pray for all of us that we would choose the most trustworthy person, which is Guru and Krishna in all circumstances. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, all best to you. Hari Bol. Do we need to press a button here or something?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now it's time for the questions and comments.
Oh yeah.
Maybe there will be some questions. I don't see it here. I just wanted to say thank you for a very nice presentation, very eloquent and with amazing and wonderful examples. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity in your place. We talked about, and now I can see.
Yeah.
Any other comments or going deeper in any subject? I mean, this is such a deep. We all can relate to it. I mean, it's a very personal subject also.
Is it possible to surrender without faith?
You can't even enter the bus without faith in the bus driver, right? If you think about it, we always need faith for something. But it's true, if we really surrender, we gotta have faith that Krishna is our well-wisher, our dearest friend, and that God is always on our side. And then we can surrender easily. And to create this faith is the greatest gift actually. It's like a gift. It's already in us in a way. Like when Jesus said, like, if you have faith like a mustard seed, you could move mountains. It's like a challenge, like mustard seed is very small, you know? And it's like, I just need a little faith, I can move mountains. And it's like, it's such a challenge, you know? So how much faith we have that we couldn't move mountains yet, you know? Right?
How to develop faith?
It's primarily through association. Association is key. That's very much a key. Associating with Krishna through his holy names. Associating with someone like Prabhupada through his books. Associating with wonderful devotees like Sundarananda. Yeah, yeah. No, that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was clearly saying that the real founder of the Hare Krishna movement, you know, he was called Prabhupada actually. The real Prabhupada.
Through mercy.
Through mercy, yes. Through mercy. And mercy is coming when God's Spirit comes, and He comes and we're together talking about Him. You know, that's really when it's happening. Right? It's a gift of faith, essentially. And then we are open to receive it also. If we're closed, you know, it can't be put in our throat like by force. You know? We have to become like these birds, mouth up, and then our bird, like Krishna, comes. Our Father comes and gives us another. Yes. No resistance, like no, open it, receive it. This is maybe the greatest challenge. We're not so able to receive because it's always power to us, but we're not open enough. Like children, like would jump, you know, like this little child yesterday was speaking, you know, someone like jumping with open arms, knowing you will be catched. You know, how many of us are jumping like that towards Krishna, that he will just catch us like a child, caught by the Father. You know? You will trust your Father will never just jump away. Ha ha! You jumped on the floor, you broke your nose. Ha ha ha! No, the real Father who loves us will never do that. No? Or the mother, or a friend, or the cousin, or the brother, or the sister we trust. You know? So it's important in these times to choose our trust very wisely. And that we do that with people we can rely on 100%. And in times of crisis, we know who we can rely on or not. Then our real friends will be shown, you know? And Krishna is our best friend. So he will show up in our lives if we just allow it. You know? And there's no doubt about it, actually. But yeah, how to receive so that's the gift of faith, yeah. And it says Shraddha is the beginning, but also the end in a way. It's the beginning and the end. You know? Because if we don't have full faith...
There's no love without faith.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
is not possible.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, we always have some faith. When we fell in love, we have some small faith. And that person also materialized.
Yeah.
Faith is here, but also there's many obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah. So we say, oh, you've been unfaithful. Why you cheated on me? Yeah?
Yeah.
It's like this.
But through association with devotee, with Vaishnava, Guru Vaishnava,
Yeah.
Krishna, this is our way.
Yeah.
Who believe in other devotees.
Yeah.
We have such fortunate that we have nice association with some kind of devotee. I hope so we someday develop faith.
Yes. Yes. Prabhupada used to say, like, don't be surprised who leaves, but who stays. Because this environment is very adverse. And, you know, it's a great victory if you can just stay somehow on the path of spiritual life already. Like they say, in this dark age, you're a hero if you can even maintain your family. Then you're already a hero.
It is.
Such a struggle to pay your bills, get food on the table. You're a hero, you know? Right? So we're all heroes if we stay in Krishna consciousness, if we stay on the spiritual path, somehow or another, you know? That's already a victory. Yeah. That's true victory. Because we have so many disappointments, right? Even with devotees too. Right?
Paradise is a very big problem.
Yeah.
This is the best. This is actually, developed faith is not a big deal. No? It's come naturally.
In a way, yes. Yeah.
But our comment in our mind and our reaction, this is stop. This is the point why we always speaking about this hvala.
Yeah.
Because faith is come naturally, same like plant from earth. But we expect some, how to say, as we have some guy who always cuts our development.
Ourselves, huh?
Yes, ourselves.
Some guy, like some crazy guy out there, false ego.
Prabhupada said that we are envy on ourselves.
Oh wow! Yeah.
This is,
Not even with Krishna, even ourselves. Wow.
we have some kind of envy on ourselves.
I think that the greatest challenge is actually to somehow to stay, as you said, on a spiritual path, because very often people on a spiritual path, different traditions, even in Bhakti tradition, we choose rather to go with the religious rules than the path of surrender. And the religious rules cannot purify us fully. And then we become victims of Kali Yuga in a way that we become disturbed in many ways. We become envy, we become angry, we become always, contaminated with this, or overtaken by these 6 enemies. And then even in spiritual communities, we obstruct each other instead of being inspiration. But when someone follows the path of surrender, spiritual path, even with the shortcomings, the optimistic aspects of life will shine. This is so powerful.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you just have just a short moment of association of such a devotees, especially those who are really advanced and pure. It's such a great inspiration. Otherwise, on the platform of Sangha on a religious level, we try to motivate each other by fear, either by pumping the ego, we are the best, and this cannot purify the heart and the practitioner. So I think this is the greatest challenge. And
or sometimes people judge each other in spiritual community.
That's the result of
because of this religious approach.
But if you meet a devotee who is really, on a path of surrender, on the spiritual path, then he acts as a Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Surya Divya Chakshata Tanta Viprasalipanya Vojagrivam Samsamindata Yosh Vishnu Yot Paramam Padam, something like that. That such devotees, they open the window to the spiritual world, to this optimism, to this positivity and enthusiasm and everything. And so powerful. It's so powerful. Maybe I don't like to discuss such things publicly with the example which I'm going to say, rather in small circles, but I hope that it's not, people cannot hear me there.
Yeah, they hear you.
For this. No, I just saw, whenever I meet devotees like that, everyone becomes positive and encouraged. Recently I visited Milana, Guru Maharaj was there, and just few days you have one person who is here for you with all treasures of spiritual realizations, and everyone becomes regenerated.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. And when we have such opportunity, then it's. But fortunately, my experience is that this Sangha is available to Prabhupada's writings, to Prabhupada's classes of such devotees. Even if you don't have physical Sangha, it works. It works. somehow.
Yeah. Because it's not limited by space and time.
Yeah.
It's transcendental, it's eternal.
Yeah.
One can have Prabhupada's association by reading.
Yeah.
He's right there, you know.
And you just feel that you're associating with him. He will appear in your dreams. He will, you know, you will feel closeness to him.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
Yes, very true.
Anyway, sorry.
Money is not so great deal to earn money, but it's a very big deal to keep it. Same, it's like Bhakti.
Mm.
We have to learn how to keep the Bhakti.
Yeah.
To keep what we earn.
Yeah.
Through our Sangha, through our
How
Seva. How to keep it.
water it.
Yeah, how
Grow.
to keep it. This is the main. This is the way how to make success. Without keep it, we have to be, how to say, not to give everyone, not to give, how to Jesus said, not to give pearls to shrine, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who was saying that. Maybe our spiritual teacher. Someone said, like, if you have a cup of water and you give someone, then your cup is growing actually. So in a way, our capacity increases the more we're giving back to society. If we're like stingy, so to speak, always keeping everything for ourselves, no matter what we have, I think such people are not happy. No? Even if you know rich people who never give away, they're not happy people, right? And in a way, the greatest wealth is knowledge. The wealth of the Brahmana, of the intellectual class, spiritual people, is knowledge and renunciation, right? You have knowledge and you don't need all the nonsense, essentially. This is your wealth. And how you share that, right? This is also important. What is real wealth? People think wealth is that you have a lot of money on an account, but maybe soon money that is not even gold-backed, it's worth nothing actually. Maybe someday all this money will be gone and someone had $1 billion, but dollar, there's no silver dollar anymore, no gold dollar. It's 1 billion, nothing actually. It's just consensus, and the consensus can change any time.
Yeah.
So now people want to buy a lot of gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin is also worth nothing actually intrinsically. It's not backed up with anything. But the real knowledge, the real wealth, Bhagavad Gita. This is worth more than $1 billion actually.
Even more.
The real reality is mercy.
Yeah.
Mercy
And
is
time.
mercy.
Time, how we spend our time.
Yes, of course. This is
Right?
without pain.
More valuable than all the coins.
Health is the first.
Yeah.
We are not. That is
Yeah. So he wants to become a billionaire.
Limitless reach.
Huh?
How to say? Limitless reach.
Yeah. The real wealth.
Just surrender to me.
Yes. It's so simple, huh? It's so hard sometimes.
But it's come on the end of the Gita.
Yes. And how many trials and tribulations Arjuna went through before the war. Queen Kunti, she was the lady of the family there, and she suffered so much, The women voice is also very powerful, and they suffer so much. When war happens, women and children, they suffer so much. And then she was praying, please, the suffering return, because God, you were so close to me. Because she was surrendered. In the time of moments of suffering, we really surrender sometimes, actually. Like they say, there are no atheists in the trenches of the war. They're all praying before they go out there, because they know, maybe I'm just living now for a few more seconds, right? And they're leaving prayers, letters, and there's no atheists. Then you really get into it, And she was like, and I never understood this so much, really. I was like, how can one pray for this to return, right? But she could see the presence and feel the presence of God so directly, it was more important to her than have a carefree, easygoing life, right? That was also interesting, And if we are ourselves in great trouble, and maybe we see Krishna very clearly, strongly, and maybe we can understand a little bit of that, right?
A lot of people become aware of God on funeral.
Yeah.
But it lasts 5 minutes.
But then also we're learning that don't wait till the last moment to become God conscious.
Yes.
this is better before. So it's serious. Yes, we can die any moment, and every day is precious. You were saying like that, no? Every day is extremely important. Every single day is extremely important. When we wake up till we sleep, this is the day now. This is important. And if every day is important, and we do good things that are nourishing for our soul, for our community, and taking care of ourselves very nicely every day, and the journey is nice, no?
You just need to pray for a good association of devotee, Guru, Vaishnava, and our development will be sure, 100%. It's not possible to miss the thought.
Yeah.
It's really good. Of course, if we don't do apparat or something, it's not possible.
And even then, if we recognize it, then we can ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And also it's important to forgive ourselves, you know. This is harder sometimes than other things. Yeah. Because by nature, Vaishnavas are soft-hearted. If you come and you just hug each other, cry a little bit, you know, it's hard for Vaishnavas to be hard-hearted. You know, and also
it's very, for Vaishnava, it's very normal to give mercy.
Yeah.
It's about like this. Just give him one little water. Go to Vrindavan, to Sunset or some sadhu, and immediately you develop your faith and you are so easy.
yes.
But we need to have, how to say, we need to be without envy, no? Without envy.
Yeah, that's the key to good relationships.
Yes.
The envy is the killer of relationships. No?
Yeah.
It's like poison. No?
So many nice devotees there in the world, and we just need to see, and we automatically go up.
Yeah. And in some way, I was learning that envy shows us what we want and don't have. So instead, we can appreciate and also like aspire for it, you know, and just not push people down or anything like that. It's very mad, this world like that. And if you're appreciating and we know, oh, this I want to move, I want to have this or whatever, you know. On the material platform, it's very easy to be envious. On the spiritual platform, it's impossible to be envious. Because we're always happy for each other's happiness, isn't it? It's natural. You see a friend who's happy, you're also happy. It's like, no, why you should be unhappy because your friend is happy? Oh, I want you to be unhappy that I feel less disturbed in my life or something. It doesn't make any sense, no? That's why the material atmosphere is so mad, like a madhouse. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all, actually. But we have to come to our senses to see that a little more clearly, no? To wake up, and then we have eyes to see and ears to hear all of a sudden. The wake-up call is so important. And sometimes the trumpets are loud, and they come in form of famine and disease and war. But they are just meant to wake us up. It's also Krishna's mercy. He has a plan. Everybody serves his plan, willingly or unwillingly. It's much more awesome to be willingly serving than unwillingly.
Glorifying each other is very important.
Yes, that's a medicine.
Yeah, this is medicine. Glorifying everyone, not only Vaishnava.
Yeah.
You have to be happy. If our neighbor has a better house or better car, this is key. This is only key. There is not another key.
Yeah.
This is opening heart and mercy can come. And this is actually the way how Krishna enjoyed this life. enjoying in other happiness.
Yeah.
He's enjoying in the garden. We are living in his garden. We are flower, and when we are, how to say, grow up, he's happy. We also have to take this principle, and there is no end of life, no end of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Did you finish the life?
I think it's time, right? Where to finish it? The red one here?
Yeah, but hey,
Uzivo.
say something.
Thank you all. Thank you for your patience with us, and hopefully you can come sometimes to this beautiful place here to associate with these wonderful souls coming here. And wishing you all best for your spiritual life. Because there's only spiritual life actually, there's no material life. We're just spirit. We're not matter. So nothing to be afraid of. Hare Krishna, all best to you all. Hare Om. Usivo, no?
Završi.
Okay, maybe you can...
No, this one.
No? Down here. What's it?